Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vital MX post-race show. Unfortunately, the 2025 Monster Energy AMA Supercross is nearing its end, but we still have racing to talk about. The penultimate round has been and gone in Denver, Colorado, and there are, as always, multiple talking points that we are more than excited to dive into on this episode of the podcast. And our ability to dive into all of that stuff is made possible by Decal Works, Yamaha Motor USA, Yoshimura Motorex, and Fox Racing. Thank you to all of them for their support of what we do here, and thank you to you people for waiting for this podcast not a day late, but half a day late, let's say, than our typical schedule. My fault, I did that, so blame me. And thank you.
Lewis has a personal life for once.
Thank you for waiting for this podcast. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. To be honest, I don't know how much there is to say, so let's get into it. I'm your host, Lewis Phillips, as per, joined by Michael Lindsay. Hello.
Hello.
You were in Denver.
Yes.
Good? Exciting?
Yeah, I mean, overall, Denver's always a unique one. You walk the track, and I couldn't believe how many guys on track walk. Same thing, like, track's really kind of like soft looking, like they had a lot of sand, and then, 3 laps there, you realize it's just going to be hard-packed hell.
Press day, the section before the finish, I ran over there to interview someone. I could not believe how soft it was. Genuinely like walking Lommel. And I went and found Dirtworks after, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I said, was there a sand section on this track map? Because I don't remember it. And they were like, no, the dirt sucks here. So we've like mixed some, I guess it's like mulch in to try and help. And it amazingly seemed to disappear in the blink of an eye. It did not seem to really have an effect or stick around for more than a lap. I was really surprised how quickly it got churned out.
Yeah, one thing I will say, I almost feel like compared to year past, like it's almost good they compacted, because the first thing I looked at and saw was, the base material is going to go still hard packed pretty quick, and I thought that stuff would sit on top and slide off, because like I think of particularly, was it like 2 years ago, the pulp race on Friday was super windy, and it was like that. It was like hard pack with almost like fluff on top of it. That stuff actually mixed in okay. Most of the guys I talked to weren't like, I don't know, I got a very 50-50 reaction after practice from people. Some people were like really PO'd about the track, and then some people I talked to were like, no, this is better than usual Denver. They're like, it's not that bad.
I like Denver, but as a racing product for Supercross, it's probably one of the worst just because of the dirt, and the track is... you know what? It's a big stadium, but to me, I don't know why I get this impression. I always get the impression that the track is one of the smaller ones. I don't know how the floor compares to other venues.
Floor's a little bit tight. Not terrible, but just one of the odder layouts of the year. I mean, at least it gave us some excitement in terms of some controversial passes, but other than that, some of the racing was okay.
Yeah, but we all kind of predicted it correctly because Chase Sexton was unstoppable in Denver. We all predicted that Denver and Salt Lake would favor him. And once again, if only he could have won Pittsburgh, imagine the situation we would be in right now, frothing at the mouth. But instead, he's 9 points down, and it's, of course, he's going to need some help. But I think that in a weird way, the ride in Denver was almost like his own personal statement. It was yet more reinforcement of like, no, look how good I am. I may not be the champion when this is all said and done, but look what I can do. I am... And I was actually playing in my head about this on Sunday, yesterday. There's a label for Chase. It's obviously the fastest rider. Fair? Fastest rider in this series. Fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The best racer in this series is Cooper Webb. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. Who's the best rider? Because that's almost a combination of the two. And I couldn't figure out who you... Because at first I was like, that's Chase. But then also I was like, well, also that you've got... If it's rider, you're talking about speed and... I guess that's just the champion.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the best rider here is the champion, and I could already tell somebody would want to argue. Well, what about Jet or this? They're not in the championship. They weren't the best rider this year. They got hurt.
It feels like
part of the sport.
It feels like a lifetime ago talking about Jet on a podcast like this.
Hey, isn't that the weird? Like I thought about that this weekend, just watching the two of them go at it. I'm like, man, I did not have this on the bingo card at the beginning of the season. If you would have came to me at round 2 and said, yeah, basically the entire second half of the season is just going to be Webb versus Sexton, I would have laughed at you. Not just because it just seems like all the talent we had at the beginning, and just kind of feels Is it a little odd that it's these two, or when you look at the whole group, you're like, oh, of course, if we were down to two, it would be these two? Because there's a part of me when I think about, Eli's current injuries, Jet stepping in, like the transition of 450 class is always tough. Injuries pop up, a couple things. I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. These are the two we're down to.
Yeah, like Chase doesn't get hurt and Cooper doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, and the
So I guess
racecraft.
that's
So
it.
yeah, it just still feels like, again, all this talk has been, oh, Eli, the last year or two has been the coming of Jet Lawrence. Eli still sticking it out. And then this year we ended up with a Chase versus Webb championship fight. And that just, generationally, like, I don't know, that just wasn't, again, not what I was expecting.
Well, no.
It's been fun. It's been really fun because we've seen some of the others. Seeing these two go toe-to-toe has been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I said this on this podcast, a podcast. Of the duels to have, Coop versus Sexton is so much more interesting than it would have been if this was Eli versus Jet. Because they're such polar opposites in the way that they operate in every single way that it's a really interesting dynamic to play off against each other. Whereas I feel like Eli versus Jet in this scenario would kind of just be very much cordial and the results do the talking and, he won tonight and he won. Like with this, as we've discussed many times, there's so many layers to each element. Even down to the post-race, we had the baby, now we have the grenade. I don't know what we have in Salt Lake City, but I feel like that sort of thing only comes from Chase versus Cooper, and that's good. I like that. I think we've ended up in a good situation considering the injuries we've had.
We had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and yes, like no matter what, as a rider, any championship fight will teach you something. I will say, with Chase still having plenty of years in his career, of course, still being towards the front side of it, I do think the championship fight against Coop, somebody like, a Jet or even a little bit of an Eli is like, we know Chase is fast, and it's kind of like an outright speed war. But for him to face off against Webb, ultimately, even if, whoever ends up winning the title at Salt Lake, leaning towards Webb, I think this will be very valuable for Chase going forward to race somebody that's, the racecraft tactician side that Webb brings to it. It's different than racing Jet for a championship. And it could, when you're just looking at Jet and Chase toe-to-toe in terms of outright pace, some of the lessons that Chase will learn from this championship run could be valuable in, further into his career.
Yeah, I think all round, I actually was thinking this. So Chase has always been, like, his technique has always been amazing. 2023 on the Honda, he was blowing everyone away with what he was doing, the way he was doing it. That's kind of been the consistent pattern with Chase now for 5 years. But actually, I think in the last couple of years, he has evolved as a rider quite discreetly but impressively. If you actually go back and watch the Honda races in 2023 and compare it now to his body positioning, the way that he goes about things, just how flawless his technique is now. I don't know. I think that maybe we don't give Chase the credit for the improvement because we just think he was amazing all along. I don't know.
Well, and I think one that, overshadowed it is when Jet first went 450. I think we went from Chase's technique looked like it was so above everybody else's, and then Jet's has a certain fluidity to it, I guess, where I think Jet's technique outshined Chase the first year they've been on 450s, but now watching Chase evolve further on the KTM, like he's got, of course, amazing technique. We knew that, but watching him bring so much just stability and strength to his riding style. Like all the stuff he does, I'm so impressed lap after lap. The fact that he's just grown up and just dialed himself in. He is so strong section to section to the point you made. Like Jet still, like I say, is a really great technique, but fluidity where he moves around when, shit hits the wall in terms of riding. Chase just never buckles. Like comes up long, comes up short, hits a hook in a corner. He has great technique, but he also overpowers it a little bit, if that makes sense. Like his form never wavers, and it's pretty cool to watch. Like especially something like Denver, some of the last couple of races we've had when the track's really bad, and you just sit there and focus on him for a couple laps and watch every little thing he does, no matter how the bike reacts, no matter what's going, how it just doesn't upset his form.
Yeah, it's magical. Running through his days, he had that massive moment in practice on the triple that I didn't see, but everyone was talking about it, so I presume it was big. I can't believe he's hitting that triple in first gear. I don't know why. I mean, it does make sense to a degree, but hitting that triple in first gear every lap just doesn't sound
factory
right.
transmissions, brother. First gear feels.
I mean, like obviously they're starting in first, although we'll get into it. But Juju was starting in second, so that's weird.
Most of a lot of 250 guys told me they started in second because 250 tranny is a little bit harder to get like a long feel like a 450. So I know PC guys weren't first, but a lot of 250 guys I talked to ran second still.
But yeah, so Chase was hitting that triple in first, hit a kicker, obviously. It was a big moment, but not as... He downplayed it. As I said, I didn't see it. I don't think it was on TV either. But everyone around me was screaming and like, oh my God, did you just see that? He almost died. So presumably it was big. He said that played into his mind the rest of the night, and he was basically boner airing it. Obviously he wasn't.
He didn't pump through. I've got great shots of Webb and J. Coop and Malcolm just like right at the top where it's hard pack, like pumping through and letting the rear step out. Yeah, Chase the rest of the night did not do that.
Yeah.
The rest of the day, I don't have a single stylish shot of Chase over that jump.
Understandable, I guess. And then the heat race, Coop did the head flinch thing. It was more than a flinch; it was a full-on motion. Chase didn't fall for that. He was very proud of that. Weird. Yes. I've been thinking about this ever since. I still don't understand what Coop's plan was for a heat. Why do it in a heat race?
I know. The only thing we were choking the photo down, I'm like, it's reverse psychology. He's trying to blow up Chase's senses so bad that if Chase sees any twitch, he won't go, and then maybe he'll be late on the gate. We were being smart. I'm like, it's reverse psychology. He's gonna psych him out.
Well, maybe even though Coop didn't do it in the main, maybe Chase goes to the line in the main expecting it and is a bit more like thrown off, I guess.
Yeah, like kind of waiting to see if he does it or wait. Like I said, almost like a little too numb to twitch in case the gate actually moved. That was it. Again, I agree with you. I'm just being a smartass of why he would do it in the heat race. Because same thing I saw, I'm like, why wouldn't you save this for the main?
Yeah.
Unless
because even if Chase hits a gate, he's qualifying. Like there's no detrimental result of that in a heat race.
Yeah. What question on the main? Because I actually did not look because I was running the other side of the floor. Were they even lined up next to each other?
Yeah.
Really that close in the main? Okay.
Yeah. Coop went on the inside of him again, which I think is where he was. That was where he was in the heat as well. And then, I was really surprised. I was actually really surprised that Coop didn't try to pull the same thing in the main because I just thought that the same thing would happen, but he didn't. As far as I could tell, unless there was something very minute, there wasn't even a single move. Next up on the chronological order, Chase wasn't stoked on Coop coming over on him in the first rhythm section. I haven't seen a good angle of it, so I don't know how intentional it was, but obviously Chase felt it was because he wasn't stoked at all.
What did they say in the press? What did Coop say? Coop's was reactionary to whoever was in front.
Malcolm?
No, because it was
Malcolm hold shot?
I think. Yeah, because Malcolm said he was. Coop mentioned being reactionary to that, and they kind of like squished in the press conference where basically Chase admitted, like, yeah, I saw red after it. Like, I felt like he moved over a lot, but he's like, yeah, apparently he was reacting to Malcolm, but his reaction, he did say he had enough, like, being able to see it all happen, like he had enough time to avoid it. I know. And then Coop said the same thing. Like Coop was aware he had moved over and kind of apologized for it. So one other thing I thought of that is even a seeing red moment like these two after the race are just able to kind of clear the air pretty easy.
Yeah, and then not so much happened in the main event. He ended with the fastest lap by not a full second, but pretty much a full second, which is impressive in itself. Flawless, dominant. There really isn't that much to say. And then, grenade after the finish. Premeditated as a reaction.
He said he messed up the first one, though.
Oh, I didn't see. I still haven't seen any of it. But
I saw this thing, like, there's photo. I have my photo sequence. He did something, and he came over and tapped his head, like, I messed up. And he said he went up onto the next jump and did it again because he said he realized he messed up the grenade throw.
Oh, now I need to watch this. So that's why his head was. I saw something of his head in his hands.
I think I don't know if it was just that or the wind, because he tried doing something off the finish, and then he went over there and held his hands. He went over on the next jump and did it, and somebody asked him, and he goes, "Yeah, I talked to somebody about it, and I actually screwed up the grenade throw, so I had to do it again."
He blew up the baby, I guess, is what he was doing.
Whoa!
And then so there you go. There's a chronological run through of Chase's day. I asked him after the race, as I should, if he signed yet for next year. He said no. I asked him when he wanted to be signed, and I can't remember what his answer was, but he said soon, I think. I honestly would expect it to happen in May. It has, we are getting late now, so I would expect Chase to finally make a decision in May, but as of now, nothing's been decided. Yeah. It's still a 2-horse race, unless someone else has entered, which I don't think they would have. So we'll wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, the bummer was to watch. The last chronological thing I noticed in the night is, after the race, it was interesting to see a podium of, I don't mean this so bluntly, but our three riders on the 450 podium that didn't all look happy with what was going on. Like Chase, Chase won, but very different reaction than East Rutherford. East Rutherford, he was like, gets off the bike, man, the last 10 laps were easy. That was so good. And he was so happy, and everybody's high five. Like, he gave some high fives, but he was just very, and I was wondering, part of it's like, yeah, the realization of, hey, I won here, but if I won last weekend, we'd still be carrying this. Like, just kind of a subdued win to him. Not pissed off, but not exactly happy looking. You have Webb, who was.
I think that was more of a like business. Like all day, I felt like Chase was very business and
businessy.
Like, yeah, like I feel like more so than it being like, oh, what have I done? It was more like I'm the man. Like I think there is a psychological game in winning and not being too excited. Anstey said this to me after Tampa, or I said this to him, or it was a discussion we had. On the podium, he really wasn't that excited, and he was like, if I'm excited, it doesn't look like I expect to be here, and I need to send a message that this is where I belong.
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe that's also part because he got really excited Rutherford, and then kind of it didn't execute the next weekend, so maybe it's just a head-down thing. But yeah, definitely not as joyous as I've seen him at other points this year when he's won. Definitely looked like something on his mind, or like you said, just kind of keeping things in check. Then you go to Webb, who had a hellacious race to hang on to it. He's sick, under the weather. The look on his face is, please, let's just get through the last race. Like, just dead looking after the race. Just let's get this over with. And then Jay Coop, who was stressed with how the last couple laps went. He also did not look super happy. So I was kind of laughing between three. I'm like, I know these guys, yes, they all appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, nobody on this three seems really excited about how this just went.
I just realized we also, in chronological order, speaking of the podium, Backwards Hat was back for the first time since Birmingham. There isn't anything to it, but Chase did say he is getting in trouble for it. But
because there's no logoing.
He genuinely, like, there isn't a particular, like, reason or game behind it. He just kind of digs that vibe. So I don't know what to
so he did it I noticed after qualifying, he did it for the interviews, and the first thing I was like, man, you can't see Red Bull logos, you can't see.
But like, I don't think it's that big a deal because it is just a team hat. It's not. It would be a bigger deal to me if it was a Red Bull hat or it was a But the fact that it's just a generic hat with a Red Bull KTM logo, like we know what bike it is,
Yeah. But, hey, those guys. This goes back to like the old, and I know Red Bull's been around sport forever, so they know it, but. Go back to the old Jimmy John's Hardin Huntington thing, how pissed off they were that you couldn't see Jimmy John's even a little bit of TV time. Like, brands pay the money. They want to be seen. Maybe we need to make a different hat, basically.
And then the disappointing thing is I was really trying to sell my services in post-race interview because technically the wave that Chase has been on lately is all correlated with me. And he wasn't...
it's all you.
Yes. Wow. And he really wasn't picking up what I was putting down. Like,
I wonder
refused.
Why. Let me hear your pitch here. What was your best one-liner?
No, it's not a one-liner. It's a fucking...
I know it's a whole spiel.
No,
we can't take the entire podcast to hear
East Rutherford was the best ride of his career. That was the week I went to Baker's Factory. I also helped him with starts that day, and he got a whole shot, which Chase doesn't do. Pittsburgh. Didn't see him at all. Didn't see him in the week. Didn't speak to him on press day. Didn't talk to him on Saturday. We saw how that went. Denver. Friday, hung out with him for like 2 hours. Then we saw how that went. It literally correlates with me. There is no argument to that.
I still go back to the year that you were doing visa stuff, going back and forth, and he won one of the weekends you weren't there. So please,
there's only one. No, actually, no, he didn't. Not a Supercross. He's never won a Supercross that I haven't attended, which is really weird considering that I was in GPs. But yeah, no. You should go and watch that interview if you want because it's a good laugh and, as always, a different perspective into a top athlete, and it's presented by DecalWorks, as is this podcast. And DecalWorks, of course, are the graphics that Chase Sexton, Julian Beaumer, and the entire Red Bull KTM factory racing team use. And you can head to decalmx.com yourself, get your own customizable graphics, jump into the wild world of options that DecalWorks have, and embrace the quality, the design, the fantasticness, and make your ride look even better. Thank you to DecalWorks for their support of this podcast, our post-race content, and thanks for supporting KTM as well. Why not?
I have a question because I heard your British undertone almost say Decalworks. Did you ever call it that
No,
before you
it's
moved?
decal. No one calls it that. It's
Okay,
not, decal isn't a word.
I heard it a little bit on the CAL part of it.
No.
Just you almost just your inner British one to come out for a split
No,
second.
I don't think that's what decal. No one calls it. We don't use the word decal. That's not a word. That just isn't a word. I don't think.
Yeah, I was wondering the first time I went to a Triumph intro, they kept saying the decals, and we were all.
No, I've
looking
never
at each
heard that
other
in
like,
my life. So they must have been just dumb. I guess. I don't know. I'm certain that isn't a thing.
Oh my god! Because they kept saying the decals, and I'm like, what the hell is that decal? Finally, in the whatever media press briefing, somebody had to raise their hand, and be like, what's a decal?
So Webb, as we mentioned, was sick. Finished second. Did what he had to do on a day where he clearly wasn't feeling himself. Not that I think he would have really been able to go with Chase had he been fully healthy. We all knew that Denver would favour Chase over Cooper, but did well to hang on for second. Helped somewhat by Justin Cooper, but mainly helped by the start. If he had started seventh, I really think it could have played out quite differently, but he took advantage of track position and brought it home, which is what Cooper Webb is known for. That's why he's most likely going to be the champion, because he can do this on a night that essentially everything's going against him.
No, I agree. It is interesting, though, like when you see between the sickness, just kind of the struggle a little bit at the end of the race, it really does come down to, even though saying going in this, it's pretty much Coop's unlock, just the start would have been executed a little bit differently. We'd be talking about a different story here. And I mean, I still kind of had that frame of mind a little bit early in the race because Malcolm was making so much progress and Aaron looked good until he kind of blew up halfway through the race with his riding. I was like, okay, there's a chance one or if not both of these guys could get to him. And just thinking about the swing that could have been like, okay, if they both could have executed, because we talked about it a little bit on the last week's pod in the last two, just kind of how each championship runners, teammates could play into this, and the fact that, at one point it almost looked like Aaron and Malcolm would both be in play was kind of interesting, but like I said, it kind of went away. It was interesting though. I know Malcolm was good all day, but again, with the conversations we've had lately, it's been more like, oh, Aaron could get into this. Aaron could get between them, and Malcolm looked like the more likely to pull it off.
Do you really feel like there's been a lot of hoo-ha about how Justin Cooper did so well to stop Coop from leaving second and not taking the position himself? But J. Coop got to second so late that I don't feel like there was really an opportunity for he himself to pass Webb.
I overheard him afterwards. He said he severely checked up.
But
he was
where?
stressed.
Maybe.
Coop made a huge mistake in front of him, and J. Coop basically almost ran the back mat to check up.
Okay,
and
I must have missed that.
Malcolm. No, J. Coop had the pace. I mean, I'll throw it out right now. There was a conversation at the Yamaha truck afterwards, and I'm pretty sure they're giving J. Coop the second place bonus. Like, they're very aware that he could have made it happen and basically, checked up. It was funny in the press conference, somebody joked with him about, well, what if that was for the win? And J. Coop was like, well, I don't want to mess with it. And I need to go back and play it, but I guess Jamie was explaining, Webb looks back at him and goes, you wouldn't go for it if it was kind of gave him that tense, like, really, you wouldn't?
Yeah, that's also
Better be
weird.
aggressive. But he definitely had, if you watch the pace he had before that and a couple of Coop's mistakes, J. Coop was very much in a very stressful spot of I can't pass him, I shouldn't. Now Malcolm's all over me. What do I do?
Oh yeah, I'm not disputing the pace at all. I'm just disputing the fact that he got into third with 2 laps to go. So I don't feel like there was that much time for him to really make something happen, even if that was Chase or someone who wasn't on a blue bike.
I would agree in a normal sense, but I think again, you look at Coop's last 2 laps were pretty messy. There were some open doors. He definitely left, just trying to survive.
Yeah, and we mentioned the sickness, but after the race, you could really see that he was suffering. It looked like it was all he had to get to the checkered flag in that position.
Oh yeah, the standing off the side of the podium while getting ready to interview. He's leaning against the pole, and he just has the most checked out face, one of the most I've ever seen. Just endless, doesn't blink anything, just staring off in the distance, waiting for his attention. I'm just kind of looking at him and he's gonna blink, he's gonna say anything, and he was just, the man put it all out there. He was a little cooked at the end.
Obviously, we all know Cooper Webb's execution, but I do want to nod to his starts as of late, because he's really, since we've gotten into this situation where the championship is really on the line, I feel like Cooper Webb has executed his starts brilliantly, with the exception of Foxborough, which is of course its own deal because of the mud. Chase started in front of him in East Rutherford, but Coop was second. I feel like Coop has really been on the money with starts in the last 5-6 races, which has maybe been overlooked a little bit. Especially, I mean, of course, he's always been a good starter, but it's definitely gone up a level, I think.
Yeah. One other thing I was going to say I noticed with him is I think towards the end, just, struggling a little bit energy wise, probably some arm pump, just riding tight, just trying to hang in there. Some of the technique goes out the window. I thought Coop had turned into Tomac for a minute. A lot of revving, not a lot of shifting, a lot of clutch work, a lot of smelling clutch on the rhythm lanes, and you could see smoke coming out of his engine, which I have not seen since a really gnarly Eli race in a while. Definitely, he was hanging on for dear life, but he was abusing the bike a little bit at the end of the race.
Well, the good news is if you're Eli, if you're Webb, if you're J-Coop, if you're Haiden, you can abuse the bike and put it through its paces because of the impressive quality that Yamaha Motor USA put out. So that confidence in the machine would serve you well if you're a rider at the highest level or a rider at the lowest level, like myself. So, yeah. That's why everyone should take a look at what Yamaha Motor USA have to offer, and that's why we thank them for their support of the Vital MX post-race show. Malcolm... So when I interviewed Malcolm on press day in Philadelphia, and he said no one had spoken to him about next year yet, and he was kind of low-key a bit weirded out by it. Spoke to Malcolm on press day in Denver. He said everyone is talking to him about next year, and it's great. From my understanding, I think it's a 2-horse race between Husqvarna and Triumph. I would bet money that he goes to Triumph, and from what I hear, I would almost bet money that Rockstar also follow him there.
Yes, I think between the movie stuff and everything, they're very far behind him. Of course, we all know that Triumph has tried to acquire that sponsorship in the past. When Bobby was there, they've had those conversations, but I agree with you. It seems to be pointing that way. The only other one I heard is an outside, but it plays too much into waiting on. We kind of talked about the continuous waiting on Chase's decision, as I had heard maybe Cowie if Chase weren't to go, but in Malcolm's situation, it sounds like he has suitors in front of him right now between his current team and Triumph. But yeah, I think he'll go Triumph.
Yeah, I was talking to someone at Cowie last week, and I said, like, if Chase doesn't do that, who do you get? And I think I said Malcolm has to be, because although Malcolm and Anderson are fairly comparable, I would say, I think at this point Malcolm is more attractive.
Yeah. I mean, just simply there's the known quantity versus the unknown of, like, if on paper they're kind of the same, but they've been dealing with Jason's, slipping since a couple years ago when he was really solid for them and got a chunk of wins at the end of the season. They kind of know what they're dealing with. The same conversation me and you had about the J-Coop thing. Even if on paper you're like, oh, these guys could be the same. I'm just always the old saying, insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Just, you got to switch it up.
Incredibly, this was the first time that Aaron Plessinger has been to Denver, which...
what?
You get into the routine and you just think that, like, oh, Denver's been around forever. How's that possible? But I think Denver only landed on a schedule for the first time in 22?
I think we went there and left it for a couple years, didn't we?
I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar. But also, I honestly have no memory of when Denver appeared now, because AP saying this has thrown me off massively. But he said that the elevation...
We had it in 19. I just looked that up.
Okay. And in 19, he was injured because that's when he broke his elbow on Yamaha. That was his first full 450 season. So
you should remember 18 because Chase Sexton secured the victory there in 2018.
Okay, well then maybe AP meant 450s. Because that obviously was a West race, and based on what I'm looking at here, AP was in the West. Hold on, Chase wouldn't have won Denver in 18.
No, it's AI screwing me up. 250 SX. Sorry,
I was going to say Chase never raced West as a.
Aaron Plessinger in third at that race.
Because I was going to say Chase. I don't. To my knowledge, didn't Chase never won a West main event because he won his first.
Yeah, maybe he's just never been on a 450.
No, I don't think he's been at all. He said, He said categorically, this is my first time to Denver, and generically, he said this racing altitude or racing in Denver for a Supercross versus an outdoor is 1,000,000 times worse because there's no place to breathe and it's quite horrific. And I think obviously the altitude and then the hard pack unique dirt that we have in Empower Field at Mile High. That contributed to AP's rather messy day, where at some points he was really good, and then at other points he was just wayward and it wasn't coming together. Like the first few laps of that heat race were a bit horrid. But yeah.
I'm scrolling through here. This is weird. Yeah, I don't see Denver. This is mind-boggling.
19 must have been the first time then. But yeah, AP, for whatever reason, seems to always miss rounds 14 through 16 of Supercross. So this is actually a little bit of an accomplishment for him to go the whole way. And not only go the whole way, but go the whole way with consistent podiums as well. So tip of the hat to AP and a tip of the hat to McElrath as well. Another great ride. That has to be his best ride outside of the mudder, so his best in normal conditions. He was a factor around the podium early on, got shuffled back a little bit, but honestly, yeah, that McElrath has really turned into something this year, and it's quite maybe one of the more impressive stories, but certainly maybe the most underrated story. Because you talk about Joey, you talk about Dylan, you talk about Dean. Yep. As far as Honda-supported riders, McElrath has kind of just become a little bit of a forgotten commodity.
I think it's easy to overlook it because I think the last really good result he had, I said, like, oh, I think he's been the best guy. And we looked up and Joey had been a little bit better than him. But now Shane has just been so good these last couple rounds. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Joey is not doing outdoors with quad lock, but Shane is.
No, other way around.
Return. Oh, it's the other way around?
Yeah, Joey's doing outdoors, but Shane isn't. And Carson, yeah, I don't know what's up with Carson because he went out before Foxborough. And I spoke to one of the team on Friday in Foxborough, and they're like, "Yeah, he's fine, no problem." And then he just
and then he said he was fine. I know he's in California; he's not riding right now. But then I asked the team last week, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he tore this ligament down to your shin. Blah blah blah. He'll be back for pro motocross." But yeah, he's here in California right now. He's not riding. Speaking of not riding, the other one, I'll just say, well, we're on the subject of 450s. Anderson. Supposedly going to return for pro motocross, and I know he doesn't have a bike at club right now. SoCal, he hasn't popped up. They've been riding with Prado during the week. I know somebody else that asked like a week ago, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's going to ride next week." He definitely didn't ride this last week in SoCal.
Well,
do we still bet money on the? Are we betting money on the? We get the PR that they parted ways, or do they make it to pro motocross?
I think that it's quite obvious that we don't expect Anderson to make it to Parla, and I have zero to offer insight on that. But on a semi-related note, I can tell you that I believe that Prado is going to club for the summer, so there will be a Kawasaki there.
Yeah, I know they were talking about staying here through, is it Thunder Valley or right after Hangtown? They were talking about packing up and hang there.
Yeah.
Or at least like the middle chunk of the summer, which, again, I think I've already joked on this podcast. Watching Jorge have to experience jumping over 65 riders at Fox Raceway, I didn't think he would stay here very long.
A couple of quick notes from 450s before we move to the hot topics of 250 West. Oldenburg was great all day. The Betas out of the gate. You know, who knew? In the power-sapping elevation, Beta is what you need. We all knew that that's where the Beta would come alive.
It's rideability.
Who would have thought? And also Beta with two of the biggest riders. Just that is the combination.
Biggest? When did Mitchell get big?
He looks big on the bike. But the Beta also looks quite nimble. I was more thinking about Benny, which I'm getting to in a minute. Dean said that he was invited to do the pre-race press conference in Salt Lake to say farewell, and he refused because he still doesn't know if he's saying farewell. So we're still in that song and dance. I can only imagine that what has happened is that Dean, making use of the Yoshimura power in recent weeks, has just rediscovered his joy and love for the sport and just can't let it go for that reason. And of course, that's something that all Yoshimura customers, riders can attest to. And if you're not one of those, head to yoshimura-rd.com to see all that they have to offer for your motorcycle and enjoy the same joy and love for the sport that Dean Wilson has currently. Craig was better, and I think we've been in a little bit of a song and dance with press day, because it seems that there's a very poignant part of our audience who maybe listen to this podcast, listen to post-race podcasts, but don't consume YouTube content. So they're missing press day. And as I've said many times, press day interviews are more often than not better than the post-race interviews. So there's a lot there. Long way round of saying this. Very interesting chat with Craig on press day about his struggles, his mentality, all of that sort of stuff that is still relevant now. So if that's you, maybe you want to go back to the press day video on the Vital MX YouTube and dive into that. Didn't do a very good job of explaining that song and dance. But he did confirm that as of right now, no outdoors. He is on a Supercross only contract. If a 450 rider gets hurt, he'll likely be in. He's not going to be filling in on a 250. And that's kind of his deal. So nice to have the hard facts there, kind of what we already suspected or reported, but of course, always nice to have it in black and white so there can be little room for misinterpretation. And as I was going to get to, Benny Bloss had what looked like a terrible main event because he started up front and then really was visibly struggling. No. I've never seen a rider more happy with a result or a ride than Benny Bloss. Giddy, I would say. Glee was flying off of him after the race because he actually got a good start, which has really been his Achilles heel, bothering him, deep, dark searching for answers to this. The interview of him, post-race interview, speaking of interviews, is actually really good. So I recommend listening to that as well. But he said that he changed something on his technique. Wouldn't say what. Don't know why. But also said that it is something he tried previously that didn't work the first time. So I don't know if this is replicatable because of that little fact.
Yeah.
But still.
Makes sense because it's sometimes we just run into like Mitchell being a fairly quiet result. Mitchell's had a couple of really good starts this year. There's a couple of rounds where I've shot the first corner. I'm like, oh, Mitchell's come out top, in a heat race, he comes out top 3. In a main, he's come out top 5. So it's definitely possible. Beta can do it.
Yeah, and there is beta news coming as well. So
more
stay
beta?
tuned for that.
Your friend?
Nope, nothing to do with my friends.
Nope. Nothing to do with your friends. Okay. They've already re-signed both their guys. 3-man team?
No, nothing like that.
Okay,
nothing like that. But I think there is beta news coming. And that's all for 450s. Let's get on to 250s because there is a lot here. So Haiden is the West champion, which somewhat surprised me because I don't know why, but I still don't really feel like Supercross is ending. So to be in a position now where we've crowned a champion feels like quite unnatural to me. But he got it done. We all know how he got it done. So let's start with the pass. I am of the opinion Davies made the mistake exiting the turn before quite visibly.
Yeah.
Odd for Davies to make that mistake and then not cover the inside or make any attempt to go defensive. So although maybe there's a way for Haiden to make that pass without putting Davies over the berm, sure. But Davies certainly could have done more there. Racing incident, sure, but if I have to put the blame on one more than the other, I think I go Davies.
I do agree a little bit because the other thing you go back to is that happened in the first time qualifying session.
Yes, and actually I'd be curious to rewatch that now and see just how similar. Well, it wasn't similar. It was more on an exit at a turn, I think.
It's more. It's the reason it ends up being nice is Cole stays more committed, but there was a rut. Like there, he gets bumped and it's hard packed, so he slides up over the top really quick. In the qualifying session, there's a top line rut, so Cole settles into it. They connect, and finally, towards the exit of the corners, they're connecting. His front gets washed and go. Personally, I shot the photo sequence for us of it because I could there was 3 corners I could see it. Basically, it was going to happen. It was either going to be that corner, the one directly after it, the triple, which 2 laps before Haiden tried to pass there. Same thing, they kind of connected, but Cole was able to maintain momentum and get into the rhythm lane. Or at the end of that rhythm lane before the 3-5-3 coming back on the start straight. So I positioned myself there because you could kind of see it coming that Haiden was going to get aggressive to try to make it happen. The track definitely was a little tough to pass on, and with their pace being similar enough in some places, he basically needed to shut down his momentum. You can argue the sense of teammate. Is it a good idea to do it for certain reasons, just on what do you call it, sportsmanship, things like that. But when it comes down to the actual action itself, Davies blew it and left the door wide open. It is a championship night for Haiden if he can get it done. And it seems like, he could have waited till next weekend. Nothing is guaranteed in this sport. It kind of is what it is at that level. And then, like I said, I fall into another category. If Cole went down there with him the very first lap of time qualifying. So it's basically, what's the old saying, like, wrong me once, shame on you. Wrong me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on you.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's kind of where I'm like, okay, you also knew that. And even though Cole's emotion, he very much took it on of like, hey, I messed up. And I saw some people like, oh, look at him. He's not starting anything. He's just taking the blame. And I'm like, it's good on him not to, make out something more was. But his also right of like, I did leave it completely wide open. and in a place where, again, he knew it could happen. I will say, having watched it, standing there watching the replay, I don't think it was like the most, again, it's really hard pack. He barely bumped anybody. I didn't think it was like the most malicious, like clean out style. He definitely took the line away, but just bad corner. And then, of course, it just compounds because Cole got stuck over the back. It looks terrible.
The thing I disagree with is Haiden said, like, oh, I was going for the championship. No. You were sending a message to Davies. This wasn't, I'm going to put Davies over the berm. He's going to lose enough points and I will be your champion. I think this was much simpler, and it was, no, I'm the man. Watch this.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, again, they had their thing happen in first qualifying, and just kind of the overall vibe between the two, like they aren't doing track walk together anymore. There's a little more separation. I remember just kind of feeling like, this relationship is definitely changing from where it was, a month or two ago. And I even asked somebody on the team afterwards their opinion. I said, so did we completely fracture the relationship tonight? Because it didn't seem good already. And they kind of be like, oh, no, it was fine before tonight. I'm like, I don't know. Just little things from press day and through how time qualifying started. I'm like, no, there's definitely a little bit of a flex going on between the two trying to, somebody's trying to prove something.
Well, the reason why we didn't do this podcast yesterday, didn't want to disclose it, but I may as well now. The reason why we didn't do this podcast yesterday is because, being the top journalist that I am, I was in Tallahassee outside the Stargates with a news camera saying, I'm standing here at the Stargates waiting for the reaction. No sightings yet of either Davies or Haiden. We have Haiden. Hayden's arriving. He's arriving he's alone. He's alone, everyone. Davies is not in the... That was what I was doing. But I didn't get... You're not going to see it because I literally got zero content because no one's there on a Sunday and no one told me that.
AMA reaction was interesting. We're well past the podium hours. People are at the truck. Kind of create a very weird vibe in the pits because the whole he won the title, didn't win the title, won the title, which we'll get to in a second. But going off, keeping the subject of the incident, Brian and Haiden were down the tunnel for quite a while after the AMA truck. Like, I'd already wandered the pits. I'd already saw you do all the interviews, and I wandered back down. They were still down there. Heard a couple things like, code of conduct. They were talking about some of the comments on the podium, but it seems like the AMA Pro Racing was actually very hung up with the pass itself. I don't know where they finished up with their evaluation or what was said to Deegan. I didn't catch them after they finally went in the rig again. But I do know they were quite keen on evaluating that pass and kind of giving it a double look from the AMA side, which kind of surprised me. Like, I get it. Like, you can have an opinion on the pass, but I didn't think it was anything that would come up to a rules or a sanctioning question.
I heard that him telling the fans to suck it was a bigger issue.
Yeah, I'd heard that. I'd heard from both code of conduct, and there was some talk about maybe some TV stuff because if like you can suck it or whatever on the TV broadcast.
Do we have feelings about the TV interview?
Yeah, the TV interview I'm not a fan of.
I struggle because, like, okay, so my personal experience is someone with no personal relationship with Haiden, but someone who interviews him, for context. Not that everyone knew that. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I get a different Haiden every time.
I could.
So, like, press day, a really good Haiden interview. Yes, there was some semi-cringy remarks, but, like, on the whole, I was like, you know what? That's not, like, that's fine. Like, And then the TV interview is a departure from that, and I'm like, okay, So I don't know if he just gets caught up in moments or well, I think we know he gets caught up in storylines a little bit, but I don't really know. Like, I my point of saying this is, I don't think this is just who Haiden is. There seems to be a lot of differences.
And when I say, like, not a fan of it, I do appreciate the, like, aspect of not just pandering to the situation, not being, like, trying to downplay it. Like, yes, I think when you ride like that, when things like that happen, you own it, and you own it. And I do appreciate that about Haiden in his interviews and any sort of interactions like that. The part that always kind of makes me question a little bit is kind of the narrative of, like, to the haters, to the people who don't think I can do this. And it's like, man, you're the favorite the whole year. Who did not think you were going to do this?
Yeah, we actually thought you were going to do better than this.
That's actually
this is actually the bare minimum of what we expected.
Yeah, and that's harsh to say, but there's a topic on our forum. There's two: is Haiden underperforming or is Cole overperforming? Because we didn't expect this. Like, we thought Haiden would run away with this title because he is, and I say that not trying to talk crap on his year. It's like that is the level we think he's going to. That's just kind of following the trend that he is building. I mean, he's getting ready to go 450. He wants to go toe to toe with Jet and Eli and chasing these guys. And it's like, yeah, you should exit your 250 career pretty dominant. So we thought you were going to come in and wipe the floor. However, I think you can see his own appreciation. I think winning the Supercross title has been harder than he expected. You know, even hearing Haiden say, like Brian joking about taking the 3 years, it definitely seems like it was more difficult than they expected. And that happens in this sport, of course. So yeah, the thing that bothers me a little bit is kind of that part of the narrative of the whole, like, everybody can suck it because they don't think I can do this, the haters, the this, that. And it's like, dude, you and maybe it's just the way they want to operate, but like, I'm like, you kind of create them more by these situations because most people are pretty like impressed with you as a whole in what you do. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of question marks on you winning this title. Well, anybody who knew anything pretty much said you were the dude. Well, yeah, you were the guy.
After Levi pulled out and someone else, I think, we were talking about whether he could win every race. Like, again, sir, this is literally we are scraping the bare minimum with this title of what we expected. Like, we are cheering, if anything, in contrast to that. But no, and again, I don't want to come across like I'm overly defending him, but full picture, like, there is humility there because on press day, he was straight up saying, I'm nowhere near as good in Supercross as I am outdoors. I need to get better at starts. I need to get better at whoops. There's a lot of work to do. So it's not like he's just screaming, I piss excellence every time he gets in front of a camera. Again, so like, going back to what I was saying, it does seem to change quite a lot. He did say on press day that he can't wait for outdoors to go out there and show everyone who's a man or who's a daddy or whatever he said. So again, some of that. Yeah. But
it is funny, again, just how this sport is. Like, for the kid that's had a Supercross track in his backyard, you know, since he was on 65s, it's still hard. Supercross is still tough. Like, you find riders like that, you label an outdoor special, Supercross special. I think because of the way Haiden was brought up, a lot of people think like, oh, he's going to kill it indoors. And he's had his struggles, and he's had to work through that and learn from it and build off of it. But yeah, I kind of, like we said, it's almost a bare minimum because, yeah, he's going to go outdoors and probably dominate the field pretty heavily outdoors. I don't have a lot down in my mind. We're going to see some impressive races out of him once we go to Nationals.
Would I be surprised to see Haiden have a new teammate for outdoors? No, I wouldn't.
Wait, what?
What?
Would I be surprised to see Haiden have a new teammate for outdoors?
Yeah.
My mind's like on the loading screen right now.
That's fine. We need to move on to second place. Julien Beaumer, who came into Denver with one mission and one mission only. And that was essentially be angry, get hard, that sort of thing. I guess a lot of people after Philly sat him down and said that was pathetic. Like, you need to man up, you need to get angry, you need to get aggressive. And to be fair, Philadelphia was his worst ride of the season. He was just kind of out there. So he was really adamant in the post-race interview that I did that, like, I need to stop messing around. I need to show everyone that I can be assertive. Like I said, is there any examples of this through the year? And he listed A2, Seattle, where he's like, other people would have taken advantages of situations that I didn't. But he did very much clarify that multiple people sat him down and said, like, what are we doing? But considering where he came from in the main event, good ride. A reminder, I think, we started up top with Juju. We maybe came down a little bit, and Denver was a reminder of where we were.
Well, me and you had this conversation a couple of weeks. Like, Juju's season is really weird to label to me. And I was going to say, I think Cole plays a part in this as well in some of those conversations. If you were to eliminate Cole from the conversation, you look at Juju, kind of the shock signing to KTM, the way it came about, going pro with them last year, and how good the season started. On one hand, you could be like, man, this is just amazing. Like, the only person that's really better than him is straight up better than him has been, Haiden. So Hayden's going to depart the class soon. Juju's building. It's only his second year. Look at the talent. Yeah, there's been some up and downs. But then you see how quickly Cole's coming to rise, and it's kind of, I feel like that kind of changes also the perspective, because Juju's season as by itself, on one hand, you could be down on the middle, but if you go back to your preseason expectations, you'd be like, no, this has been a really good year for Julien. But then you bring Cole into the picture, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's on one hand, you can be like, hey, we could build and get there, but then the other argument is Cole's going to get there pretty freaking quickly if you don't step up.
Yeah, I guess that's the evolution of everything, though, isn't it? And again, I come back to what I said strictly on the Juju alone topic. I don't know. Like, this was... Like, he said to me, I think he said in the interview, and this is fact, like, before this year, I hadn't had a top 5. And it's like, it's really hard to keep perspective and hindsight with assessing Juju because fundamentally, I think he may be... No.
This is a difficult one.
I was going to say, I was going to say it. Now I'm not saying it. I don't know what I'm doing. I was going to say, fundamentally, behind Cole now, he may be the best Supercross rider in the field. Fundamentally. I'm talking like technique, raw Supercross ability. Mm-hmm. Crazy? Fair?
No, not crazy. Okay. No, fair.
So like that masks our opinion a little bit and maybe we know what he's capable of. But then, the no top 5 prior to this season is in stark contrast. So it's quite difficult to sit here and have an honest chat about where Juju's at because it almost comes down to personal opinion and emotion because all of the facts that are out there contradict each other somewhat. So really weird, bizarre. But what wasn't bizarre, what was in fact brilliant, was seeing Fox Racing on a 250 West podium with Garrett Marchbanks. Of course, Marchbanks was on the podium in Seattle, really turning his season around. Bold, untamed, and pushing the boundaries of aesthetic, style, and design. Fox Racing's new Spring MX graphics, launching with Hello Future, disrupt the status quo and make no apologies for the interruption. Comprised of head-to-toe kits, plus a slew of head-turning men's and women's lifestyle pieces, its spirited graphic combined with dialed-in fit, comfort, and construction sends a message loud, clear, and confidently. The future belongs to those brave enough to answer the call. Thank you to Fox Racing for their support of this podcast. And in Fox Racing news, Ken Roxon is, of course, out for the rest of Supercross with an additionally aggravated ankle. It had been aggravated 3 or 4 times. The 5th one broke the camel's back. So we won't see Kenny until SMX for sure. Maybe an outdoor if he chooses to do that again. But, of course, who really knows if that is on the docket? It doesn't sound like it's a certainty by any means. Jordan Smith did really well to come through. Of course, benefited from Cole Davies going down, Moserman going down. But I felt like Jordan rode fairly promisingly to come back to 4th again, similar to Juju. We hit a dip there after the Arlington injury, but this was a return to form somewhat and a reminder of where Jordan was at. And I mentioned it there, but Moserman was cleaned out by Juju. I didn't see this, and I don't know if it was on TV. But that's why he dropped back. So, anything on any of those guys?
No, I missed that as well. I just saw that Moserman had dropped back, and then that was kind of about it. No, it's kind of outside that, like, Jordan coming back around. Garrett's race is solid again. Garrett's in a really weird situation. He's a one-off, 1-year contract. PC's already filled a lot of spots. I would argue there's maybe 1 PC spot left. So Garrett needs to keep plugging away. It sucks because, we're at the end of Supercross where he should shine, and then we're going outdoors on 250. I will say I've seen Garrett ride locally on motocross, and he's been ripping, but again, he's a big guy. We'll see when we get to that part of the year.
And on Moserman, I think you'll see Moserman at Quadlock next year. That's my assessment, which makes perfect sense.
That does, actually.
I mean, it's not really so much what I hear, but more what I'm putting pieces of the puzzle together.
That makes sense.
I actually completely missed what happened to Joe Shimoda. And in fact, did anything happen to Joe Shimoda?
For some reason, I think I remember him coming around way back on the first lap. Did he go down the first lap?
He was 4th on lap 1. That was a heat. So his lap chart, he was 4th, then he was 5th, then he was 6th, then he was 7th, then he was 8th, then he was 9th. So that doesn't point to like one crash. That points to a fade. Plead the 5th on this, I guess. We'll find out more. Honda's PR hasn't come out yet, I don't believe. Maybe it has, though. I'm just going to check quickly because this would be quite interesting to find out, and it hasn't. Although I will say, on the topic of PRs, it's kind of bizarre how we haven't had the Denver PR from HRC yet, but we've had the MXGP of Portugal PR, which was 24 hours later. Just in my constant question and queries about PRs, just dropping that one. Anything else?
On 250s?
Or anything. I mean, I can't, to be honest, I think we've wrapped
Joe's
up quite
kind
early.
of an intro. I mean, Drew Adams' night, I felt like was quiet, but a solid return. A lot of laps, decent qualifying, decent race pace, just kind of an overall solid night for him. So excited to see him back. Interesting again with his injury and ties that we got Drew back way before we got Ty. Never getting Ty back at all in the Supercross. Shimoda's another one that's kind of interesting on the dual suitors, and I don't think either of them are going to end up being his current team. I know there's, kind of the consistent rumor point is potentially at Husqvarna. And then I've also definitely have heard conversation about Kawasaki, a potential return to PC actually being, I hate to say I just got all mumbled, but yeah, it's potential.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't think the Honda door's closed.
I don't think it's closed either, but I'm leaning towards he departs more than he stays.
There's a lot of spots in the pits where, like, if Malcolm leaves Husqvarna, who are they going to get to replace him? If Joe leaves Honda, who are they going to get to replace him? There's a lot of those situations where I'm like, if certain guys move on, I can't see an automatic replacement. Whereas in oftentimes there are, it's quite clear to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So,
yeah. I think Honda, the one, I need to double check on this weekend. And I heard this from 3 people that should know that Honda may have approached Juju if Joe were to leave, but I thought Juju's
was under contract.
Down. That's what I thought. Okay,
Ian told me in like Arlington or something where Juju is the only rider under contract.
Okay, that's why. Well, now, sorry, at that time, yes, yeah, Aaron is now too.
Yeah.
So I need to double check on that because the people that talked about were like pretty sure. Daxton Bennick's name was also thrown out as a potential.
I could see Dax staying at Star now. I didn't think that at first, but I think I could see that.
Lopes in 10th, kind of quite interesting how I don't want to say the mighty have fallen, but compared to a guy who was top 5 to knocking on the door of podiums, it's just like a reset of his career. We've gone backwards a couple of years, and I just don't know. Watching him, like, it was a decent performance, but I just don't know if he gets back, what it's going to take to get back to where he was. It just seems a little lost at the moment.
Yeah, I've really struggled to notice Lopes in all of his races this year for some reason.
Yeah, oddball number, not a look I was expecting him in mid-season. I catch myself doing that every once in a while, literally going, who am I shooting right? Oh, that's Enzo.
We haven't done the MotorX Tom Vial Sympathy Corner because I was saving it for the end of this podcast. We do have a winner-takes-all situation. Are we going to be...
Yeah, we do.
Are we going to have the MotorX Sympathy Corner for Tom Vial after Salt Lake City?
Or apology?
Or the apology, or the MotorX Celebration Corner for Tom Vial.
I said on last week's pod I lean towards Seth.
I think I go Tom. I think I go Tiny Tom.
Go Tiny Tom. Are you going to lift him up on your shoulders when he celebrates?
Honestly, KTM needs to win one of these championships because it wasn't too long ago they had all of the red plates.
Well,
so they need one.
I was going to say, and then you go back to last year. I thought about that walking the pits this weekend about just, OEMs. It's like, okay, last year we basically had an Austrian sweep. How much that's changed, 12 months down the road that we potentially may not get an Austrian title in Supercross.
How did we have an Austrian sweep?
RJ, Tom, and no, sorry. I'm thinking just 250s.
Oh,
my
okay.
bad. 250s we did. Sorry, with RJ and Tom. My bad.
But on that note, actually, a great weekend, for MotorX, because not only did they, along with KTM, sweep both motos in both classes in Portugal, but of course Chase Sexton won the 450 main event, and Julian Beaumer got second. It's a great weekend for MotorX, and hand in hand with KTM, MotorX, known for high-quality engine oils, also has an entire line of clean care and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race-proven MotorX clean care and lube products. Right, before we go... sorry. No, you go.
I was going to say 2 small ones, just looking down the field, 2 things that popped mine. Dylan Walsh, we will not see him here during the summer after next week. He's going to Canada. And 16th place, Parker Ross, that was his last race with SLR Honda. He will not race Salt Lake. He will pop up at Pro Motocross on a BarX Yamaha.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I like finding stuff out that I had no idea about. BarX is a bit invisible to me. I don't know what it is. Ever since with Suzuki, it was quite they stood out a lot more naturally because they were the only Suzukis. Now I really have a hard time, following on from what I said about Lopes, picking out the BarX riders and following them. Like, I don't know what it is. But again, let's bring it back to the PR side. I think these teams, there's a real need to put your foot down in these areas rather than just go racing. But hey, what do I know?
Hey ho. And then Lopes is Supercross only. We won't see him for Pro Motocross with Bar X. So their team will shift a little bit. Drake comes back, 450 outdoors. Brad West moves to a 450 outdoors. Schwartz, Parker Ross, 250 outdoors, and I feel like I'm missing one other 250 on their team. I'm going brain dead.
Well, sounds like they've got enough.
Oh, then Gavin Towers above him reminds me of something interesting. Colin Park, I believe, is actually going to campaign a 250 outdoors for the first few rounds to try to do anything they can to help out his SMX situation instead of a 450 like last year.
Does he need help for SMX? I guess
Point spread wise, I think where he's sitting right now wasn't enough to make the threshold that we saw last year. Because it's tough because you think his season was really good in Supercross, but you also have to remember that 250 divisional Supercross is only half the races. So then you pile in 22 motos of Pro Motocross and guys can leapfrog really quick.
Yeah, and the issue is with the injuries we've had, he's 12th at the moment, but behind him, Hymus, Moserman, Boland, Anstey, Bennick, Faulkner, like all of those names are without doubt. And even Harrop, I'd imagine, would probably leapfrog. No, Harrop would definitely leapfrog him. Sorry, what am I saying? So yeah, that is going to be necessary. My parting gift is on the Chase Sexton interview that I mentioned. Thought this would be funny. 2 comments, back to back, left within a minute of each other.
I know what these are.
This is a horrible interviewer for the camera guy. Ask some good questions and stop wasting Sexton's time. Immediately below it, best interview in the sport. Lewis is the man. Great job. So nobody knows.
Your Chase interviews get those every once in a while, though. It's most positive. I will laugh. It will be one just, you are the worst thing ever. Can't you do a real interview followed up by this is the greatest interview ever? So congratulations, Lewis. Really, really.
I said to people, I like every other interview is normal. I like having just this oddball, just this like, hey, and there's also this. You know,
especially like we have, if you, again, for anybody that's listening to this pod that maybe doesn't follow all of our YouTube content as well, if you want the serious Chase Sexton interview, we have the press conference video up. If you want the Lewis experience with Chase Sexton, you also have that interview.
We did get some serious questions. We got the hat insight, we got the first gear insight, we got the head insight. Then I asked him if I could move in with him. Bit of everything.
How did he react to that?
He didn't say no. He said he has the room. And also, I asked if I can ride out on the back of his bike in opening ceremonies. And he said, well, we're going to have to get you gear. So again, not a no. It's exciting times. Anyway, we're done. Thank you to Decal Works, Yoshimura, Yamaha Motor USA, Motorex, and Fox Racing for their support of the Vital MX post-race show. Thank you to all of you people for listening. Again, sorry for the delay. It's not really much of a delay, but hey, apologies nonetheless. We'll be back in 7 days' time to discuss the 450 SX champion, which is not a foregone conclusion, but, somewhat predictable, and the 250 SX East champion, which put a name in a hat and pull it out. There's bound to be a lot to discuss from that showdown. Thank you once again for listening, and we will see you next week.